everyone, it's Nichol Spohr here today with an interactive slider surprise card featuring components from the Simon Says Stamp August 2019 card kit called Party Like a Panda. We're going to be using the exclusive Party Like a Panda 6x8 clear stamp set with a My Favorite Things slider surprise dies to create this fun interactive design. What's so fun about this card is that not only do you have the cute scene on the front, but when you slide up the interactive portion, it's going to reveal another hidden scene underneath. We're going to take a white panel that's trimmed to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and I'm simply marking that inside area. I'm very lightly marking the corners with a pencil so that that area, when the slider is pulled up, is what is colored and decorated. I've also already die cut my slider surprise front of my card from some of the pattern paper included in the August kit. I've trimmed a white panel to 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 and 2 green pattern paper strips to 1/2 inch by 2 3/4 inches. This is going to decorate the slider portion of our card. Let's go ahead and start with the front panel of our card design by stamping our images on this white 2 3/4 by 3 3/4 inch rectangle. I'm going to start with the crying panda surrounded by a balloon and a crushed package with his party hat all askew. We're going to stamp this down near the bottom edge of the design. My goal for this card is to not make it appear that I didn't use coordinating dies for the images. I'm not using the coordinating Party Like a Panda dies, but I still want everything to be very interactive and colorful, meaning we're going to color the surrounding area around our panda with Copic markers. You could also choose to mask off your image and apply some ink with distress inks or other kinds of inks or paints around the background if you want. While I have my stamp and my MISTI, I didn't re-ink it, but again stamped that image on masking paper. This is going to give a really light, faint area, but I only need to be able to see my image. I don't really need it to be super dark. I'm just creating the mask mostly down near the bottom edge of the panda. That's because in the finished card, you might have noticed that there's a gift package or an additional gift package on either side of the panda. I want to fill in that entire bottom area of this panel. So we're going to mask this off and stamp 2 additional gift package images down here near the bottom. The result is it looks like everything is one complete image rather than 3 separate images. You could also choose to add any of the other embellishments or images from this stamp set or other stamp sets down near the bottom if you want. Now I'm not going to add my sentiment yet. We're going to wait till all of our coloring is done and then we'll go back in and stamp and emboss some sentiments from the Party Like a Panda stamp set. We're going to start by coloring in our panda with some gray markers. I like warm grays for when coloring critters. I'm using warm gray 5, very minimally, and then blending out with warm gray 1 and warm gray 00. A little R00 will be used for the cheeks, and then anything on the panda that's actually black, I'm going to go over that with warm gray 10 to darken it up a little bit more. I'm not going to worry about doing that quite yet. I'll come back to that in a minute. Adding a little R00 to the pads of his feet as well as the cheeks. Here is the warm gray 10 for the black areas on the panda. You can see that this instantly darkens everything up really nicely and really makes the contrast show up. We're going to start with the background now before we color in all of the images. I'm using several shades of blue-green to color this in. Starting with blue-green 000, then BG 01, 02, and 05. We're going to concentrate the darkest part of the color down near the base of the design. I'm simply going in and adding all this color right now with a light marker, and then I will add darker colors down near the bottom, gradually darkening this up and building that background color. I'm just trying to keep it even on both sides, and I'm working very quickly. Coloring backgrounds actually isn't as time-consuming as it might appear, especially in small areas like this. This is a fairly small rectangle, and it's going to instantly add fantastic color so that the background isn't stark white, which is really what I was going for with this card design, where we have such a bright and fun frame die cut with that slider surprise die. I wanted the inside panel to really take center stage. And by adding this color all the way around the background, I feel like it really does. We're even going to add color on the inside panel that's going to mimic this as well. You can see that I'm building color gradually as I don't want to go in with my darkest color right away. I always feel it's better to start light and work your way to a darker color. Next, I'm going to color in the bow on one of the gift packages with some reds using our 35, 37, and 39. Then we'll color in the gift package that this gift is sitting on with shades of pinks and blues. These blues almost have a purple tint when next to the red and the pink, I think. We're going to use B23, 24, and 26 for the blues, and RV 52, 56, or 55, pardon me, and 66. We'll use those same pink colors with a little bit more emphasis on RV 66 on that tag on the package. I forgot to color in the rest of the ribbon around the package, so I need to go in with my R35, 37, and 39 and color that in as well. The more color we add to all of the great accessories around the panda, the better. I purposely haven't colored the area that's the ground that the panda's sitting on. I will go back in with my warm grays and add in some color there to help ground all of the images. I did add some little blue to the tears coming out of this panda's eyes. Sorry that I totally got my head in the way of the camera for this part. Next, I colored in the deflated balloon with Y08 and 19, and then I'm coloring in this gift package with YG21 and 17 for the greens and RV 52, 55, and 66 for the pinks. This package looks crushed, almost like the panda either had a tantrum or something for missing the party. I think this is a really fun and clever way to send a belated birthday sentiment. You could totally change this to a regular birthday greeting simply by changing the images from the Party Like a Panda stamp set that you're using and the greetings. There's tons of different greetings and 4 different pandas, so you can really create many different cards. The party hat is colored in with YG21 and 17. And then the little streamers from the top of the hat, we'll use some blues, reds, and pinks for those. For our final gift package on the front panel of our card, we're going to color in the bow with YR01, 04, and 07, the package itself with R35, 37, and 39, and then the polka dots with RV 52, 55, and 66. How sweet is that poor little panda? I think he's absolutely adorable. Now we're going to crease our slider surprise panel on those score lines and add adhesive only to the bottom portion of the slider. I've adhered my colored panel just to the bottom half. You only want to adhere it to the bottom half so that it pops up when you pull the slider. Then I'm taking one of the green 1/2 inch by 2 3/4 inch strips and adhering it to the top, and the other one will be adhered to the bottom. The reason that I have left room for one at the top is it really balances out the design. The one at the bottom is going to cover up that little bottom score piece that actually holds on to the pull tab that slides this window open. I've used a powder tool along the top edge of my colored background and stamped "Oh my gosh." I'm going to stamp both phrases individually so that I can get them as close together as possible. I'm sprinkling on a little white embossing powder on this clear embossing ink stamped phrase, and then heat setting this with my heat tool. I want to make sure it's good and hot before I bring it to the paper. Then I'm going to stamp the phrase right underneath this, "Did I seriously forget your birthday?" ? I think this is just so cute, and I love that there's lots of different sentiments, as I mentioned earlier, that you can mix and match together to create just the greeting that you want. I'm stamping this right underneath. I want to get it lined up as perfectly as possible. And then I will sprinkle white embossing powder on this as well and heat set the rest of the greeting. The front of our panel is almost finished. We can go ahead and adhere the other green strip along that bottom pull edge. I'm going to put some nice strong adhesive on this and pop that in place. This really frames up that center panel really nicely and coordinates and complements the frame color as well. We're going to flip it over and put adhesive only on that little bottom strip that's scored, and then take our rounded corner pull tab from that My Favorite Things slider surprise and attach that to that little panel. That's what's going to make the window move. Now, while I'm coloring the inside part of my card, I want the glossy accents on the front to dry. I'm applying glossy accents to the eyes, the nose, and the balloon on my card. Even the teardrops are going to get a little glossy accents. I'm going to set this aside to dry while I work on the inside of my card. Now, the fun thing about this card, oh, and I am going to add some little white highlights I forgot to mention. So we're going to go in with our pen and add white highlights all over the colored images. I've also taken a colorless blender. Any of those little light areas you see in the background of the sky around the panda, I've used a colorless blender to create those light areas. We will take our white pen and add some additional little dots as well. It just dresses up the area around the panda really nicely. Just adding all of those little highlights here and there. And even some little dots to the cheeks. Adding those little white dots all over around the sky. The coloring for this card is really what takes center stage. I'm going to take the Pull Sentiment from the My Favorite Things Interactive Labels stamp set and stamp Pull with black ink to our little pull tab so that the recipient of the card knows that this is interactive and that they need to pull this to reveal the fun little scene that we're going to build next. I love that there are lots of options for letting whoever is receiving your card know when it's an interactive card. Now I'm using those pencil lines that I previously drew on the 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch panel to guide me to know where I need to stamp my images and color my background for this card design. I created a mask for one of the balloons so that I could stamp another one. This card really does use minimal masking, as I don't need a ton, but it does help when I want to overlap a few small embellishments. Once I have everything stamped, I am ready to start coloring in the inside of my card. I chose to use the panda kind of laying on the ground here. I thought these two pandas out of all 4 were the ones that looked the most sorry for the great belated birthday greetings. And this time we are going to start by building the ground that the panda is laying on with warm gray 5, 1, and 0, 0. I erased the pencil lines at the bottom before I started coloring in. It might seem kind of funny that I drew them at all, but it did help guide me to know where I needed to color and where I needed to go. I did extend my coloring slightly further than what I actually needed because I wanted to make sure that I got the entire thing colored and that when you looked at it from the side, when you're pulling up that pull tab and you can see to the sides, that it doesn't show any white. That was really important to me. Just like before, I'm using BG 000, 01, 02, and 05 to color in my background. Building that color gradually and definitely keeping the darker color down near the base, down near the ground. Very quick coloring. The only thing is kind of going around these few little couple balloons, those stars, and then the panda. Now the actual slider surprise measures 4 by 5 1/4 inches. I will be trimming this background down to that same size to place on the back of our slider surprise here in a minute. But I did start with a little bit bigger piece of cardstock than I actually needed. The balloons are colored with R35, 37, and 39, and RB 52, 55, and 66. The panda is going to have a little red bow tie with our 35, 37, and 39. And then we'll color him in with warm gray 00, 1, 5, and R00 for the cheeks. A little Y08 and Y19 were used for the stars. I did go in with warm gray 10 and color over the dark areas of this panda as well to darken them up. I'm taking my colorless blender and adding all of those little dots in the sky just like I did before. As that colorless blender is touched to the paper, you can see that the ink wicks away from those areas, leaving little light areas in the sky or in the background. When you pull up the pull tab slider, you can see the scene that's going to be revealed underneath. Let's go ahead and take our background now and figure out where to stamp our sentiment that's going to be revealed with the scene underneath the slider surprise. I'm going to use the sentiment, "I'm so sorry." I'm going to stamp this again with Simon Says Stamp clear embossing ink, just like I did for the front of the slider panel, and heat emboss with white embossing powder. I'm going to take my panel and then trim that down to 4 inches by 5¼ so that it fits perfectly back behind my slider surprise. Now I find that my slider surprise works best if I put foam adhesive on the back. But I decided I wanted the inside to match the outside. So I'm going to put glossy accents on the balloons and on the panda's eyes and nose. This means that I need to let this sit and dry for a little bit before I try to assemble the slider surprise. I came back about an hour later and my card was completely dry and ready for me to adhere it. Because I'm going to be using foam adhesive to attach the slider surprise to the background, it's going to slide up really easily over that glossy accents. I'm using some foam adhesive strips along the bottom edge and along the sides. Just be careful not to place the adhesive right next to the sliding mechanism. That gives it a little room for it to move easier. I'm going to peel the backing paper off of my foam adhesive and then pop this right over our cute little background. I'm so excited to show you guys how this works. When you pull up on the pull tab, it reveals the sweet little scene inside. So much fun. Next, we're going to take a white top fold card base and attach our slider surprise right to our card base to finish the card. This is also a great place to maybe add a gift card or money for the recipient since this is a birthday card. I'm going to go in and add some white highlights to the rest of the images, drawing with my white pen right over that dry glossy accents. It's a great way to make the eyes, nose, and balloons really pop. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this interactive belated birthday card featuring the Simon Says stamp August 2019 card kit of the month called Party Like a Panda. The supplies I used to create this card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Please be sure to visit the Simon Says Stamp blog for more information on this project. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.